Hello and welcome to our very first episode of Real Estate is Crazy. I'm Christina Smith.
I'm David Hagigi.
And this is my very good friend, Tiffany Magayan.
Magayan.
Is that right?
Yes. Hi.
And I'm really excited because we have a crazy story to tell you guys. And I guess how we should preface this and get going is that, David and I have been in the real estate business for a long time. And when we go into houses, you can sometimes feel the energy in a home.
Well, I always feel the energy. The question is, can I ever get close to a level that Tiffany does?
Yeah.
Feeling energy.
And is it good energy or bad energy? Like you can tell sometimes if someone has lived in a home for a period of time and they're like, you feel warm, you feel invited. And then there's some homes.
Or institutional or overly sanitized. Yeah, there's a lot of feelings you can get
from a property. So what brought Tiffany to me was, this was actually the first time I actually needed help with a property. And Tiffany and I have known each other since middle school.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think about a year and a half ago that you told me that you have this gift.
Well, I think it was like 3 years ago, but we were just chit-chatting. And
Can we use the word clairvoyance? Is that a word that you would use?
Yeah, like when people ask me specifically what my level is or whatever, in order to
Level 12, right? Third degree black belt.
In order to categorize, I think people need that label just to understand, and so what I tell people
You're
is...
qualified, right? You have the state certification required for this?
There are actually schools, metaphysical schools and stuff like that. But it's like when you're dealing with the occult, it's more geared towards magic, ceremonial magic, like high levels.
From the bayou type stuff, right?
Well, I mean...
You're not actually like stabbing little dolls.
No,
no.
What you're talking about is a certain type.
That's voodoo.
Yeah. And that's a type of voodoo.
Excuse me for lumping it all together. I really don't.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There's like a light path and a dark path. They call it the right-hand path and the left-hand path in magic. And basically the right-hand path deals with everything light, for, lack of a better term, and vice versa, with the left-hand path.
It seems very black and white.
It does, but it's not, because it deals with duality.
Like yin yang?
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't come from, and the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It doesn't come from a place of like good, evil, God, Satan. Like we don't believe in Satan. That's a Judeo-Christian.
Yeah, I think that's too easy. Yeah. But I know when I walk in, it's either bright and sunny or dark and dungeony.
Yeah.
Like those are the two, immediate energy vibes that I get from a home. And typically dark and dungeony, it just seems...
People like to assign all this stuff to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean evil or something terrible,
I always worry that it's just
mean
dirty.
Sickly. It could mean, yeah.
Yes.
And I've always found it strange. You can have a same house built the same year, and if one home was not maintained, not cared for, the people in it just were sickly and
what's the opposite of pride of ownership?
And you see this home deteriorate right before your eyes. And then you see another home that looks like I don't know. Have you ever gone in and seen original 1976 and it looks like you just stepped into 1976?
At least 3 times this week.
Yeah.
This is all really
they
relevant.
Never change anything.
Well, but
but they kept it, and you can feel that they were good energy in the home, and the home
soaks
is immaculate. It soaks in
I
that
call
energy.
these grandma homes. Okay, so I tell my clients they're the best deals because they're not neglected, but they're not upgraded. So you're not paying for somebody's upgrades, but what you're paying for is love and care and all these things that
avocado tile.
But think about it, avocados are back in style. Avocado tiles back in style.
I would keep it.
Absolutely. No, you just got to do the right color contrast, right?
But this particular house, so that I called Tiffany out to, I was in a desperate situation. It was a listing of mine.
Wait, you were in a desperate situation, or
in
your seller was in a desperate
I would say
situation?
both.
Yeah. You were in this together.
I was like, what do I do with this? What this situation? And ultimately what it was the person who was living in the home had to go into a hospital. They were diagnosed as having Alzheimer's and dementia.
Oh,
and
worst.
when the homeowner went into the home, they found it a hoarding situation. It was pretty
unsanitary.
Yeah, very rats,
rat feces. Yeah,
rats
I'm familiar with these homes.
everywhere.
There's a lot of these out there right now, and it's crazy because I think property condition matters less than it ever did.
Yeah.
In my memory of real estate,
it was either sell it to a cash investor, or the owner had the option of fixing it up, and I would help facilitate the fix up, which is such a fun situation.
Christina did an amazing job.
Oh, I believe it. She's above and beyond. If you could have seen
the house, because I knew what it had looked like previously, and I was just like, whoa.
Well, she says it that way because she sensed it. Like when she came in, we were still doing some work, but it had been completely cleaned out. But of
the personal property, but not of the bad juju.
Like, I sensed stuff. Like just stuff. And I was like, yeah, there was a lot.
Because 3 hours ago, it was all here.
Yeah. I mean, I can post pictures on the website. The
it's
house
a very
is long
stifling
since sold,
feeling.
but yeah.
When you go to a house that is full of crap, and the person is a hoarder, or even when they remove the stuff, you can still feel that. When you walk into someone's house and you feel tension.
It's like a phantom limb.
Yeah. Yes, yeah,
it's
that's
that kind
100% what
my arm hurts. Well, you don't have an arm anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it was. And so we cleaned all the stuff out. We started doing work to the home, and strange stuff started happening. And it wasn't an immediate click for me. So an example is, there was a leak in the roof. So I called the solar company out to replace the panels. It's had solar panels.
What real estate agents call the solar company for a roof leak? I mean, come on.
Well, I had to have the panels removed so we could replace the roof.
I'm an advocate. Don't get me wrong.
So they had placed the panels in their proper position outside, and then the next morning the homeowner was there, and he said that one of the panels was tipped over and smashed on the ground. So I called the solar company and I'm like, hey, this is what happened. He's like, that's impossible. These things are 40 pounds. There's no way that panel tipped over on its own. And I was like, well, in that case, one of your workers did it and just neglected to tell us.
Simple.
So, of course, I negotiated, and I feel really bad about it now, but they paid for a new panel.
Why do you feel bad about it?
Well,
you showed your teeth for your buyers. Stop it.
Now
Stop
I know better, but I had blamed them because that was the only logical explanation. There was no one at the house. There was nobody working there. The logical explanation is the workers didn't secure the panel or they accidentally tipped it over. So then that got situated. But then I had a plumber working underneath the house replacing some plumbing, and he was reporting that he heard footsteps going up and down the hallway above him. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. It's an older house. It's a raised foundation.
You did say something about rats in the attic too.
Right.
So
I'm like, maybe some pests or something
really
like
heavy
that.
rats with shoes.
Yeah, with shoes. So, but the one I could not ignore was my son, who's 21, was working with the contractors doing some side work, and he had stayed late because they had removed the bedroom doors and he was painting the bedroom doors. And one of the doors was propped up against a wall. And while he was painting, the door flung off the wall and into another door, like aggressively enough that it damaged the other door.
I just think about how messy it was. It was being painted.
Well, I know. They were really dark wood, and it just didn't go in that. I was like, let's just paint them. But he, of course, came home, told me, and he also told me that when he was in the house, he would periodically hear growling in his ear. And I was like, you know what?
Rats in the attic. I'm telling you.
But they're not big enough to get in his ear. So I was like, I called Tiffany, and I'm like, I need you to come cleanse the home. Something is going on. And I know from his, just when you start doing work to a home, sometimes these things can start to happen. you stir things up, so to speak, right?
Renovation.
Hopefully not asbestos.
What do? I can't sell this to anyone being in this state, so I have to deal with this now.
It sucks because renovations tend to kick up spirit activity because a lot of times they don't like what you're doing or they don't want you to change it.
I can see that, yeah.
They like to keep things the way they like to keep it.
I mean, I've had sellers who want to just keep it the way it is. So I can imagine that they're,
they get upset. And, it's
also,
like someone's in my house. Like, imagine if you loved your house and then you died unexpectedly and tragically, and then some other people come in. And then let's just say that these people are the complete opposite of someone that you would want to hang out with.
Yeah. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's a conflict right there.
I would definitely be stirring up some stuff. Like, get out of my house.
Well, I'd be worried if say that the home inspector and the spirits didn't get along, like that's going to basically kill the deal. For me, that's the biggest no-no is killing the deal.
I wouldn't say that the older gentleman didn't get along with Hunter, but he was being rude to Hunter because he didn't feel that Hunter was doing things up to his standards.
Now, Hunter's the home inspector?
No, that's her
that's
son.
my son.
Oh.
Basically, I was the cool thing about this was I had the benefit of the homeowners. It was a family home. The family had owned it since 1949. So I had the benefit of being able to go back to them and say, this is what, and they had told me all about their parents. So I knew. It was
those other guys too.
Yeah, I knew.
He didn't like some of the stuff they were doing.
Yeah.
And then the woman was really upset because she didn't want anyone touching her lemon tree. I was like, really special to her.
Over 100-year-old lemon tree in the backyard. So as Tiffany's walking through, so first she came in and she does her setup and it's very elaborate.
Yeah.
She does a whole elaborate thing like crystals
post some
and
pictures
plants
of this later.
And herbs. Yeah, I have pictures.
I'd love to
and
see
video.
pictures of your setup.
Yeah, I did a whole video of it actually, so I can post that on the site. So, but then you started walking through and she was talking about the things that she was sensing. And so I guess what was one of the first things you felt?
Well, the different people, I got an older couple and then I got approximate years that they were there. And then I got another gentleman that had been there that was sick. And
this was before COVID though, right? So it wasn't okay, yeah.
And we got some other this gets kind of deeper a little bit, but to keep it short, we found another entity which can be created by a spirit itself.
It's not a corporation.
It was kind
state
of
of California
shock.
entity. It's a different type. Okay.
It was actually a surprise because up until that point, everything that she had said, you said that the mom, which I knew about the mom, kept making comments about the fact that the walls were white. And what was she saying?
She didn't like it. And that's not how she had it, when she was there in the house. And it just was a personal style choice, really. I mean, a decoration type of thing,
Yeah.
I mean,
personal preference.
Yeah.
People have those.
And we did.
That's
we painted
really,
But what you're saying is she had a personal preference.
Yes, we had painted all the walls white. So when Tiffany was there, the walls were white. And you said that she kept going why are the walls white? There's no color. And
I tried to tell her that that's what they do in homes so that people can picture what they want in the house.
Yes.
Which may or may not be true. Case by case.
Well,
in this case.
But what she didn't know was when we started, the walls were green, purple, and pink.
Sounds like a circus.
Oh, yeah. But it's because she loved color. And so then we came in and we took out all the color.
Yeah.
She didn't like it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, color's emotion, especially in a design sense. Real estate thrives on color. If you find designers using color, people will usually pay a lot of money for that color.
Yeah.
Well, because it's risky to do it on their own. They need a professional to bring in the color.
Yeah, and just the right amount.
And she picked certain colors for certain people, for their rooms and stuff.
Yeah.
So
She had two
personality
daughters, and one was pink and one was purple.
So all that white paint it just didn't go over well.
She didn't like it.
they painted over something important to her too. she had, done the thing where
You measure the height of the kids?
Yes, the
Yeah.
height of the kids.
I just took a picture of one of so we just did a property that was a complete dump, and I had to get a picture of it because I knew I was the only one getting, like, it was about to get demoed out, and it was like 15 years of kids' heights on this little door jamb, so I took a picture. It was the best I could do.
That's good.
Well,
At
now
least
you
you
can
did.
get them where they're like mobile, where it's like a thing that you can buy.
Yeah, but see,
good.
when we're doing them, we don't think about that. We just think about, let's measure this height, and this is our house. We're never going to leave this house.
Yeah.
Man, memories
that
are
was sad.
big deal.
Yeah.
It really gave me so much more compassion because then as we're walking through and you're telling me about the husband and I asked you, wow, did he knock over the door? And you said, yeah. And why did he do that? He didn't like what Hunter was doing. And so then I was like, well, wait a minute. I knew that the owner had told me that her father put the roof on that house. And I said, did he knock over the solar panel?
He just doesn't, he's old school, and he just doesn't see the need for things like that.
Because he doesn't see SDG&E raising their rates every quarter. It's, of course, once you pass, you
He
don't have to
still
deal with
thinks-
SDG&E anymore. That's
Right.
the problem. Yeah.
He was
He
like,
still
I
thinks
did
it's
it,
like
it's
1972.
fine. Yes.
And
And he didn't want anyone touching his roof, and he didn't want anyone touching his plumbing.
Well, if
and
it's
he didn't want
watertight,
anyone
so let's
touching
talk
his
about this a little
doors.
bit. People change roofs when they don't need to be replaced. A lot of times they're watertight. They got a good 5 years left in them.
Yeah, but this one had a big leak.
Really?
This had
Yeah.
yeah,
Not this one?
well,
Yeah, this one was
did
past
not.
repair,
This
yeah.
one had a
It had a
huge leak
leak.
in the ceiling.
So
and
he
it
was very proud of this roof that didn't really work that well.
Well, he replaced it back in 1984. The dad did, and obviously he had passed away. So like now we're again going into his home, and we're changing things.
30 years later.
in
30
his
years
day,
later.
they would have just patched it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's it.
Why replace the whole thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
He has like no sense of humor either. That's the thing.
Oh. Like a really cold and stoic
Yes,
guy.
and that's exactly what my client said her dad was like. She said, yes, my dad was like that. And so those things were explained. But then when we went into the first bedroom, because what Tiffany did was she saged the whole entire house. And as we're walking through, and she asked, like, what religion were the parents? Because we will do
I asked that of
blessings
everybody.
Valid question.
in their religion, and they were Catholic. So she brought over some Catholic prayers that I could read while she was saging the home because it's comforting for them, so that we can explain like the house is moving on to a new family. And in the first bedroom, though, like what you never, I think, ever want to hear Tiffany say is, "Oh, that's weird." I was like, "What? What's going on?" She's like, the sage is black. And I'm like, what does that mean? Do I need to leave? Like, I started panicking. Like, what do I do?
Well, like normally, like it'll turn black, like when you burn it, but like
Like most things do.
like I don't want to sound like totally ridiculous, but it was doing this thing where, remember how it was like smoking? It was like completely black.
Yes.
Oh, on the outside,
Yes.
like it
Yeah.
was like engulfed.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it started to go, and like kind of
Like an oxygen pocket. Yeah.
I guess you could say,
I was freaking out.
it didn't look good. It didn't, nothing in
right.
that, and nothing in that room felt right. And it was the room of the guy, and he had died in there, and he had a lot of sickness, and physical pain,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
just like I was saying earlier, like that pain, the energy of it can reside.
It's like an insurance claim. It sticks with the house.
Yes.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah, let's say you have like a bunch of people that argue in a house like all the time. And I know this is true because in my old house, that's how it was when I was growing up. And we went to see the house like 20 years later just to meet the new people that live there and stuff.
Clear as day, huh?
She point blank asked me, she was like, what is with all the tension and anger in this house? And I was like, oh, you picked up on that. Because it's a newer home. So then people are like, oh, that whenever it's a newer home, that's my clients freak out the most. Because they're like, but My house is less than 20
not
years
old, yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No
what's
one
going
died
on?
in it. There shouldn't be anything, but that's not the truth.
I can
That's
speak
not
for the energy
reality.
transfer aside from anything that might be supernatural. I can speak that just buyers and sellers, just by looking at each other sometimes, they never get to meet, but there's an energy transfer there.
Oh yeah.
Usually it's bad. Buyers should never meet sellers.
No, it's like I've recently had this happen several times, and it was
That's
like
interesting.
horrible. It went terribly wrong.
What happened?
Terribly wrong. I mean, I guess I don't know if that's a podcast for another day. But
Oh,
like,
believe me, I can
they
write
had managed to
stories about
switch
that.
swap phone numbers.
Oh,
And then they started negotiating behind the scenes, and
classic. What should not happen.
it went so horribly wrong that, like, I mean,
Because then they started bickering.
well,
Right.
it was more than that. It was like originally he was going to put in a full price offer, and then next thing I know, he wants to put in $30,000 lower.
It was just too
and then next thing I
complicated.
know, my client's calling me like, "Hey, he's offering $75,000 less. Accept it." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I haven't
He's
even
like,
seen the
"This guy
paperwork."
did a background
Yeah.
check on me, and he's got all the behind the scenes info."
Oh.
And I'm like,
Extortion.
I'm-
It's not uncommon.
I'm
You see, Tiffany,
I'm
she
not
seems
even
really
joking.
surprised because this kind of stuff is surprising, but it happens
It
all
is.
the time.
It happens. And they start negotiating behind the scenes, and you're not even a part of it. And I'm like, I told the other guy's agent, I'm like, I want whatever background information your client got on my client in my email box in like the next few hours, because
Yeah, what's
This
that?
is a
I
total
wanna know
teaser for
what's
the
being
next
said.
one because, well, the
Should
truth
we-
is,
well.
we can wrap up our episode a little bit here because
Well-
Tiffany did some number. Did she do an actual
Well, I wanted
full
to-
cleanse?
she
Yeah.
did a full cleanse. And in fact, at the end of it, I asked her, because she cleansed the room, and I asked her, what was it that she saw in that room? And she described it. You want to describe it?
And what I was telling her is that this is what the spirit wanted me to see. So it was projecting, it was trying to probably make me scared so that I would leave it alone, you know? And so it was kind of like this little, like, troll type thing. You
like
know?
Gremlin?
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
That's a
She
good word.
described it, and I went, like Gollum in Lord of the Rings. And she's like, yes, exactly. That's what I was-
Translucent
She's
skin.
like, it's this sickly little creature crouched in the closet. I'm like, Gollum? Gollum is in the closet of this house?
I just think about, now no one will buy it if they see this little guy in the corner.
Well, I mean, there was like a drawer that wouldn't open, and she's like, he's in that drawer. So I had to like pry the drawer open so we could sage inside every drawer, every cabinet.
Wait a
every
second.
closet.
Sounds like furniture. Wasn't this house empty?
He was
No,
trying
it was
to
a
stay.
built-in. Yeah, it was a built-in
Oh,
drawer.
yeah.
You know how those like 1940s houses have those nooks and little drawers in the hallway?
Quality that they just don't build anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
made
know.
no
Exactly.
sense that it wouldn't open.
Yeah,
though.
it had opened fine the whole time, and now suddenly it wouldn't open. And I was like, there's no way this thing is staying in this house. So I pried it open.
She pried it. Like, I don't know how she got it open because I couldn't do it.
I'd be worried that it would still stay, but that's why she brought you.
Well, ultimately, the rest of the work went fine. We didn't have any further issues. The home felt so much lighter afterwards, and no more problems.
So now it can make more memories.
Yeah.
I needed
Yeah.
the, homeowners and Christina to participate in the cleansing, of course. There was like a few things that I did while I was on the property, and then I just asked them to finish it out. You know what I mean? Because it's their house,
Of
and they have
course.
to take charge of their home, and make sure that everything and anything knows it's not welcome there. And that's like a really important attitude to have when you buy a house. That's your house. You bought it. You
Protect
live
your
there.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No negative energy is allowed in this home, and it's not welcome here. And it's about bringing in light and love and peace into your home.
Exactly.
And so the biggest takeaway I got from that was there is not a home I'm going to close where if the new owner will allow, if my client will allow, I'm bringing Tiffany out to do a cleansing because it's so important.
It's a good way to ensure that your clients are going to have extended good energy that
Yes.
carries through their first couple of months of ownership, because that's when it all really sets in.
Yeah.
I realize, a couple months and you actually know what it feels like to live there.
Yeah. And then it hits you when that first mortgage payment comes through. You're ready to make that payment.
Remember though, you get to skip a mortgage payment. See, this is something I
true.
keep reminding people, because mortgages are charged in arrears. You don't have to pay that first payment when you buy a house. Everybody should buy a house.
Yeah, everyone should buy a house. You should call us if you want to buy a house.
No, the truth is, finding a house and buying a house is harder than ever. So a good buyer's agent is more important than ever.
Yeah.
I brought this book that I really like, and it has all these spells in it about like how to find a new house, or like what to do if someone is taking too long in escrow, and like all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
What?
They're like specific.
Yeah, see, we need that.
They're specific.
People take too long in escrow all the time.
Like I looked for this book for you for a while.
You did?
Yeah, and I found it, and I was like,
So
I was like, score. I
we're
was going through all
booking
this
Tiffany's
stuff.
next episode to come tell us about this book. We need to know more.
There's definitely more episodes, more experiences that I've had with her that are super unique. And we're going to put her contact information in our show notes in the description. If you want to have your home cleansed and you need help with anything, she's amazing and she'll help you with anything that you need.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
to break it in. And we look forward to having you back.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us, and follow us, and join us for our next episode of
Real estate is
Real
crazy.
Estate is Crazy.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Until next time. Bye.
Bye.